Good morning. We will begin our service with the ringing of the temple bell. At this time, please silence your cell phones and listen quietly, as the sounding of the concho is an invitation to settle our hearts and minds as we prepare to receive the Dharma. Thank you.
Namandab, 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 namandab.
Aloha, everyone. Welcome to the 40th Annual Ellison Onizuka and the Space Shuttle Challenger Memorial Service. A special aloha to our guest speaker, NASA astronaut Donald Pettit, as well as to Claude Onizuka and any other members of the Onizuka family who are in attendance today. 40 years ago, on January 28, 1986, Kona native Ellison Onizuka and 6 other astronauts perished 73 seconds after the Shuttle Challenger was launched. The whole world mourned this tragedy, but our community and Sangha were especially heartbroken because Ellison was born and raised in Kona and was spiritually nourished right here at Kona Honganji Buddhist Temple. Let us never forget how Ellison pursued and achieved his dreams and brought honor and pride to his hometown and state. He soared in space, and though no longer here on this earth, he leaves a legacy for both young and old to follow. I am Stephen Kaneko, and I will serve as your MC today. Assisting at the temple with technical support are Alan Matsumoto, Lynn Katayama, and Joy Guzman. Corinne Chong is our organist, and Betty Takeoka will lead the singing. Please rise and let us start the service with the Vandana and Tisarana led by Reverend Blaine. Please sing both the Pali and English parts together with Reverend Blaine.
Vitsnamanda, 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 Vitsnamanda.
Please remain standing for an aspiration which will be shared by Reverend Blaine.
Please join me in Gasho. We gather this morning as friends in the Dharma, as fellow travelers on the journey of life. As we remember Ellison Onizuka and the crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger, we honor their courage and the spirit of discovery and responsibility with which they lived. We reflect on the values of bravery, of sacrifice, and the power of imagination and hope to change our troubled world. We take heart Ellison's encouragement to future generations on how to make a difference. They are the adventurous, the explorers, the doers of this world. When they see a wrong or problem, they do something about it. When they see a vacant place in our knowledge, they work to fill that void. Rather than leaning back and criticizing how things are, they work to make things the way they should be. They are the aggressive, the self-starter, the innovative, and the imaginative of this world. Whether we travel to the stars, into our communities, or into our own hearts and minds, we should always aim to live with curiosity, wonder, and a sense of responsibility to leave things better than we find them. This is our challenge, and what Ellison Onizuka continues to teach us all these many years since his birth in the Pure Land. We also think of the thousands in Minnesota right now, standing in solidarity with a community besieged and terrorized by its own government. And we honor the memory of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, who were murdered by federal agents. Do we have the courage to oppose state-sanctioned violence, cruelty, and fear wherever we are? Can we be brave enough to imagine and create the just, humane, and compassionate world that should be? Just as the Buddha taught how one candle can light thousands, may each of us ignite the flame of hope and fearlessness in whatever way we can during this dark time. As we face our many challenges as a nation and world, may we always seek refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows us the way in this life, the Dharma, the way of understanding and love, and the Sangha, the community that lives in harmony and awareness. Entrusting ourselves to the dynamic working of all-encompassing wisdom and all-embracing compassion, we call the honored name of Amida, the Buddha of infinite light and life, with deep gratitude, joyful reverence, and a heart-centered awareness for the miracle of each unrepeatable moment. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu.
Please be seated. It is now time for the offering of incense. First, we invite Astronaut Donald Pettit, along with Claude Onizuka and any other family members and relatives in attendance, to please come up and offer incense. Now, offering of incense will continue, starting with Sangha members in the front rows and moving towards the back. Please use both incense burners. Let us now observe a moment of silent meditation.
Namandab, 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 namandab.
Reverend Blaine will lead us in chanting the Sutra, Gasho to Amida. Words can be found on the laminated handouts in the back of the pews and on the screen.
Composed by the Reverend Kenru Suji, Gasho Tomida is a hymn that praises the Buddha of infinite light and life and celebrates the activity of great compassion which sustains our lives. This hymn reminds us that we should humbly approach life with our palms pressed together in reverence, gratitude, and joy. We chant these words so that we may hear the Dharma and awaken to the virtues of the Buddha. May our voices together express our profound gratitude and appreciation for the Buddha's great benevolence. Namo Amida Butsu. I recite Amida's name with deep joy and gratitude. I gasho to Amida. Trees and grasses and flowers all grow in great compassion. This light shines throughout the world. I gasho to Amida. Flowers bloom and flowers fall. From the seed sprout new flowers. This is the truth unchanging. I gasho to Amida. Springtime brings the happy birds. Their songs all praise Amida. I join them in Nembutsu. I gasho to Amida. When I call Amida's name, it's Amida calling me. Buddha's voice, my voice are one. I gasho to Amida. When I'm lonely, I recite Namo Amida Butsu. Then I feel great compassion. I gasho to Amida. Nembutsu in work and play, every day with Amida. Amida. Every moment filled with light, Aingasho to Amida. Remember the golden chain, kindness to all living things. I will follow this teaching. Aingasho to Amida. In the clear, bright morning sun, in the fading light of day, in the darkness of the night, Aingasho to Amida. Namo Amida Butsu. I live in great compassion. This great power guides my life. Aingasho to Amida. Naman Namin. Naman Namin. Naman Namin. Naman Namin. Naman Namin. Naman Namin. The virtue of Amida's vow is shared equally by all, together attaining awakened mind. We are born in the land of peace. Namandab, 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 namandab.
Please rise for the Gatha, the Wondrous Gift of Peace. Words can be found on page 220 in the purple Praises of the Buddha Gatha book and on the screen. Again, page 220.
He who foundered in the
Please be seated. This morning, thanks to the efforts of Claude Onizuka in conjunction with the Onizuka Memorial Foundation, we are honored to have as our in-person guest speaker, NASA astronaut Donald R. Pettit, PhD. Dr. Pettit was selected by NASA to be an astronaut in April 1996. The Silverton, Oregon native holds a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering from Oregon State University and a doctorate in chemical engineering from the University of Arizona. Prior to becoming an astronaut, he worked as a staff scientist at the Los Alamos National Laboratory in New Mexico. A veteran of 4 space flights, Dr. Pettit first served as NASA Science Officer for Expedition 6 in 2003, which originally was scheduled to have been a 2.5-month mission. However, following the Columbia Space Shuttle disaster that grounded the Space Shuttle fleet, the mission was extended to 5.5 months. He returned to Earth on Soyuz TMA-1, landing in Kazakhstan with a malfunction caused ballistic entry. This off-nominal entry resulted in the landing 475 kilometers off course and taking about half a day before being recovered by ground rescue teams. So we are thankful for his safe return after such a scary landing on his very first space trip. Next, in 2008, he served as mission specialist and operated the robotic arm for STS-126, which was a 16-day mission. He returned to the ISS in 2012 for a long-duration mission as a flight engineer for Expedition 30/31, where he lived aboard the ISS for 193 days. He conducted scientific research, repaired the ISS, and operated the robotic arm to capture the first commercial cargo spacecraft. Most recently, Dr. Pettit launched to the ISS on September 11, 2024, as flight engineer on the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft for Expedition 71/72. He logged another 7 months aboard the ISS and returned to Earth less than a year ago on April 19, 2025. In total, Dr. Pettit has lived a total of 590 days in space and has completed 13 spacewalk hours. So please give a welcoming aloha to NASA astronaut Dr. Donald R. Pettit and his wife, Mickey.
Aloha. Oh, wow, this is splendid. Thank you. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here for Ellison's 40th memorial. And I was a scientist at Los Alamos 40 years ago, and I had a NASA project where we were flying on the NASA zero-gravity airplane during the launch of a Challenger. And our launch, our mission was called back early because of the Challenger disaster. And we didn't know exactly why until after we came back to Ellington Air Force Base and landed. I've got this connection with the Challenger incident. With that, let's move to my presentation, if we can get that. It's coming right up. I'm going to show a bunch of pictures. I like to, oh, there it is. That's my home away from home. If we could turn out these lights here, I think we could see the displays a little bit better. But that's the International Space Station. And it is huge. It is about 100 yards in every direction, 100 yards wide, 100 yards deep, and 100 yards long. So it is huge. And there's 7 crew members living there full time. 3 from Russia through the Roscosmos organization, which is equivalent to NASA, and then 4 through the NASA organization, and also the international partners, ESA and Canada, and JAXA in Japan. And 7 people living on the International Space Station. It has been occupied now for, 25 years, continuously occupied. If anyone here is younger than 25 years, you have never lived a time when there hasn't been astronauts living and working in space. Next slide. Oh, we have windows on Space Station. This is part of the cupola, and it looks out at Earth. And I very much like the concept of a frontier. Frontiers are in space. They're here on Earth. They could be under the stage of a microscope or through the eyepiece of a telescope. My frontier happens to be human exploration of space. And a characteristic about frontiers, they are places rich in discovery. They are places where the answers are not in the back of the book, and you have to figure things out for yourself. And that is what I find so delightful about being in a frontier environment. Now, next slide. This is one of the windows on Space Station, and it's we are over Mongolia, looking past the Himalaya mountains into India. And when you go to the space station, you could think hundreds of astronauts have been there before me, and tens of thousands of pictures have been taken through these windows. Why should I bother to take a picture? Because it's already been done. But you're in a frontier, and your mind and your eyes are different than all these other people that have been before you, and you might be able to make observations that others have not made. So, next slide. You change the settings on your camera, and it's the same window, the same view, but now you see something different because you've set the camera up differently, you've made a different observation. Next slide. Again, you change the settings on the camera, and now you see a completely different view out the window. You have a different observation. So again, just because you're going someplace where other people have been before you does not mean you can't make new observations. Next slide. Oh, that's a selfie. I'm in the cupola, which is 7 windows approximating a hemisphere looking at Earth. And it's a great place to sit and contemplate and meditate what your place is in the world. Next slide. This is a view from the cupola of Earth, and because of your orbital motion, the world goes by very fast. Here on Earth, the sun takes 2 minutes to slip below the horizon due to Earth's rotation. On Space Station, it takes 7.5 seconds. So you go from full, bright daytime to black, black night in 7.5 and a half seconds. Remember, you're above the atmosphere, so there's no twilight, there's no dusk, there's no dawn. It goes either full on bright or full on black, and the transition is 7.5 seconds. And I like to point out, this is a little different than what we're used to on Earth. But again, this is a frontier. This is why we go to places that are new, so that we can learn and see things that you can't see if you just stay at home. Next slide. Oh, this is a short movie clip, and this shows how fast the world goes by. It's maybe sped up just a little bit, but the world goes by really fast when you are on orbit. Next slide. Okay, because of the orbital motion, if you take a time exposure, the stars are streaks because you have a point of light and you are moving and it makes a streak. And this is about a half a second exposure. And I wanted to be able to take longer exposures of space. So next slide. I had some colleagues of mine make this little wind-up clock. And this clock, instead of the hour hand turning once every 60 minutes, the hour hand turns once every 90 minutes. And that's our orbital period for going around Earth. Next slide. And then here, the clock is set up through a series of arms, and then there's a camera up there on the left-hand side. So now the camera can move at your orbital rate, and you can take a time exposure 60 times longer than previously possible. So next slide. So this is the slide that I showed before where the stars are streaky with this little wind-up clock. Next slide. That's what you can do now on station with just something as simple as a wind-up clock. Next slide. So I started to take all these pictures of things that we hadn't been able to photograph before, like the Milky Way. Next slide. And here's another picture of the Milky Way. It changes depending on the sunset and the sunrise conditions. Next slide. Sometimes it's purple. And there's interesting scientific reasons for why sunsets and sunrises from orbit can be purple. Sometimes they're just normal orangey red. Next slide. This is from the southern hemisphere. Those two fuzzy spots, those are the large and small Magellanic Clouds. And first noted by Europeans when Magellan sailed around the world. Of course, everybody that was already living in the southern hemisphere already knew about them, but the Magellanic Clouds, the orange is the upper part of the atmosphere, and it's visible here because of the time exposure. Next slide. There's a close-up of the large Magellanic Clouds. Again, made possible by just this simple little clock that I had flown up in my personal allotment of stuff. Next slide. Oh, this is called the zodiacal light. It's a light scattering phenomenon that it's really hard to see this from Earth, but from space it shows up quite prominently. And you see it shortly before sunrise, and it's basically light scattering from debris left over from when the solar system was formed. Next slide. This is a standard star trail picture taken in Arizona, and it's a period of about 2 hours. And during that time, Earth's rotation will move and the stars go in circles around the North Pole of Earth. And I wanted to do the same thing from orbit. Next slide. So here is an example of doing a similar time exposure when you are in space station. And there's a lot of neat natural phenomenology that you can see in a picture like this. I could talk about one picture for maybe a half hour. I think I'll do that another time. Next picture. Now, you can end up making a movie with these time exposures. So this is an example of what it looks like when you do a time exposure. These are about 30-minute time exposures. And you keep adding the exposures on top of each other. You end up with a movie. And what's neat is the flashing dots, that's a single thunderstorm as a function of time. So it'll go flash, and then there's orbital motion, and it goes flash again, and orbital motion, and flash again. So you can document the time history of a thunderstorm in some of these photographs. Next slide. Oh, this time exposure shows the effect of LED lighting. On my first mission, cities would either be yellow-orange from the sodium vapor lights or blue-green from mercury vapor lights. And now with the development of LED lighting, you have all these pastel colors. You have greens, and you have pinks, and you purples, and reds. All of these different lightings you can see from orbit. Next slide. And then fishing boats. This is off the coast of Thailand, and the green streaks, and again, this is a time exposure, so we're moving, the fishing boats are little points, and you end up making a streak. And off the coast of Thailand, they use green lights to lure in their fish. I'm not exactly sure what they are going after, but they're using green LED lights for their fishing, and you could see that effect from orbit. Next slide. Oh, this is one of my favorite time exposures, but there's something interesting on the right-hand side in the atmosphere. You see those little streaky things. Next slide. There's a blow up of those little streaky things. That is Starlink satellites. And you see them shortly before sunrise and shortly after sunset. There's thousands of these in orbit, and they make these bright flashes. Sometimes the flashes can be as bright as the planet Jupiter. Next slide. Okay, so here's a movie, and you can see the effect of the Starlink satellites. This is what they look like real time. You look up at the sky and you see all these moving things, and I call them cosmic fireflies. And you know, LED lighting saves a lot of energy. It allows us to see at night, so that's a good thing. It also takes away our nighttime view of the stars. That's a bad thing. Starlink satellites provide worldwide internet coverage. That's a good thing. But then they can also make these flashes in the sky. And it's up to us as human beings to figure out, how do we want to balance our modern society with possible infringement onto the natural environment that we live in. Next slide. Oh, a good colleague of mine, Babak Tafreshi, he lives in the Boston area, and he is a world-class astrophotographer. And he goes around the world and records all kinds of amazing displays. And before I launched, talked a bit and set up so that when he was taking a picture of some kind of thing on Earth, I would be overhead synchronized and take a picture of the same thing. So we could do synchronized imagery of natural phenomenon. And we call it from above and below. And we've had a series of photographs published in National Geographic on this. And this is an example of one of our photos that we put together, where the top picture is one I took from space station of aurora, and it's the red aurora. And the bottom picture is one that Bobek took of red aurora, and these were synchronized. Next slide. And this is a similar kind of picture, where top one is the Milky Way that I took from orbit, again with a little wind-up clock drive. And then the bottom is a picture that Bobek took, also synchronized from Earth in orbit. And we've got dozens and dozens of these pictures. I really think it's interesting to look at the difference in perspective between Earth and space when you're viewing the same phenomenon. Next slide. Oh, aurora. Aurora is such a beautiful natural phenomenon. It comes primarily in two colors, the green and the red. And the green is at an altitude of about 120 kilometers. Space station is at 400 kilometers. And the red varies from around 300 to 500 kilometers. So when we're orbiting Earth, we're flying through the red, but above the green. And if you look out of a port or starboard window, you'll see red. If you look out a nadir viewing window, you'll see green. It's like you've been shrunk to some miniature dimension and put inside of a neon sign. It's amazing to see aurora from an orbital perspective. And next slide shows a video of what the green aurora looks like when you fly over the top of it. And it pulses. It's like a river of green flowing in the upper atmosphere. Next slide. This is a video clip that goes from sunset to sunrise. And there's a lot of neat things you can see, from moon reflections off the water to lightning flashes. And oh, there's the moon reflection. And then there's a special surprise in the middle. We just happened to fly over some more aurora. And again, it's like rivers of green, pulsing rivers of green. And then there comes sunrise. Next slide. Okay, we're back. We're back to the beginning, and this is where I'm going to conclude my presentation. I like the concept of a frontier. It's where your imagination can become part of nature, where you can see things and make note of things that you might not be able to see back home. And it doesn't matter if other people have already been there before you, because you are a different person with a different brain and a different set of eyes, and you can see things that maybe other people did not observe. And when you are in a frontier, it's going to be a place rich for discovery. And I like to live and work in frontiers. They could be all around us. It could be out in a flower garden. It could be through an eyepiece of a telescope. It could be in the stratosphere in the bottom of the ocean. It could be out in the lava fields here on the big island of Hawaii. Frontiers are all around us. All you need to do is make the observations and do the work after you've made the observations, because it's important to note what you've observed, maybe write it down, publish it, whatever, so that other people can build on the discoveries that you have made when you go into a frontier. So with that, let me end my presentation. I am happy to answer questions. And again, I am really appreciative for the opportunity to come here. And I would like to present this montage to the mission. And this is a collection of pictures from my last trip to space station. And the one that I'm most proud of, here's a normal crew picture, all the people I was with, but this is a crew portrait in thermal infrared. And I kind of like that. I had to put that picture on here. So with this, I really appreciate your hospitality. And it is an honor to be here for Ellison's memorial, 40th memorial.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions for Dr. Pettit? Not every
It's
day
your
we get an astronaut
Yeah, it's your
in
opportunity
person.
to ask an astronaut a question.
Darren, you have a question?
Thank you very much for the presentation and coming to Kona. Really appreciate it. You know, now with the space exploration, there's robotic types of missions versus manned missions. And I guess I always look at robotics are quantity because they're cheaper, but quality, heavy manned missions. Does NASA have any kind of strategic plan going forward as to how to balance the two?
Yeah, a good question. And it deals with, we could send robots to go to places and make observations, and we could send people to go to places to make observations. And it costs a lot more to send people. Hawaii wasn't colonized by sending robotic canoes here, right? Hawaii was colonized, Hawaii was occupied because people themselves came on the canoes. And there's an aspect of being a human being where if you could send a robot, that's fine, but you need to do more than just sending a robot. The robot could be a precursor for sending human beings, but ultimately, because we are human beings, we need to venture wherever it is possible for us to go at that particular point in time. And if you look at NASA, NASA has a robust program of robotic exploration. That's how we know so much about the outer planets right now, because human beings haven't gotten there yet. I mean, we're taking baby steps. We can go to the moon, and we're getting ready to go back to the moon. But we haven't been beyond that with human beings, but we've been way beyond the Earth-Moon system with our robots, and we know so much more about the solar system because of that. Eventually, we will have human beings going to all of these places. I see the future where the whole solar system will become explored by humanity, hopefully together and hopefully for peace. That's just what it means to be a human, I think.
And then for viewers on Zoomland, if you have questions, you can type it into the chat. And in the meantime, we have another question from the back here.
So I would imagine that being an astronaut is like one of the most selective jobs, right, in the world across time. So I'm really interested in your story with your education, with experiences. What led you into this role, and what like key experiences, solidified that?
Wow. So what does it take to become an astronaut? And I was reading Ellison's bio, and it's the same story today. If you look at the new class of astronauts that have come in, you see somebody that has a passion for studying math, science, engineering, and they work hard in school. They work hard for their careers outside of school, and then eventually they put an application into NASA when there's a selection process. And for my own part in that, I applied, got the reject letter. About 3 years later, I applied again, got the reject letter. I did this 4 times, and the 4th time I got the letter that said, welcome to the astronaut program. And I understand Ellison had to apply a number of times before he got in as well. So that is a standard theme. The competition is stiff. Typically, NASA hires 8 to 10 new astronauts. And a number of years ago, 18,000 people applied for 10 positions. So the competition is really there. You're like the salmon swimming up the river in order to get to the rocket ship. And part of that process is you get reject letter, and you need to say, well, I'm going to try it again. You don't say, oh, I got rejected, let me forget about this. You say, okay, what can I do to improve? It'll probably be 2, 3, 4 years before they have another selection process, so I've got time to improve, time to advance my work, and then I can apply again. So for me, it took 12 years of living, working, advancing my career, and then finally I got to the point where I could get in.
We did get a question if you are scheduled to go back into space again?
Oh, yes. I would love to fly back in space again, and I am going back in to the astronaut corps as an active astronaut, and I will be doing all the basic training that astronauts do in between flight assignments, and then we will typically have some kind of ground technical assignment. And my ground technical assignment is working on the lunar rovers that NASA's going to be sending to the moon. So I'm working on some of the technical details of the lunar rovers, and then keeping my training current. And hopefully I'll get another flight assignment. You never know. And I enjoy doing the groundwork that astronauts do, and I'll be in this group of people that could possibly get another flight assignment.
Any other questions? Okay.
I really liked your pictures of the Aurora Borealis, and I was kind of just wondering if you know why it occurs, or like how does...
Oh, good question. And I'm not an aurora physics person, but I do know that the sun boils off charged particles, mostly electrons. And then these electrons stream out in space, and because they're negatively charged, they interact with Earth's magnetic field, and they get captured by Earth's magnetic field, and they will spiral down the magnetic lines on the north and south pole of Earth. And that's why, and then when they hit the atmosphere, it's like the electrons inside of a neon sign. It makes the air glow. Just like in a neon sign, you have neon. You could also have air. It's at low pressure. You pump electrons in, and the air or the neon or the xenon or whatever's in there starts to give off light. And it's the same kind of thing with our upper atmosphere. Where the aurora is in the upper atmosphere, it's about the same kind of pressure as inside of a neon sign. And the air glows, and it glows red and it glows green from these electrons coming in. So that's my simple explanation. You can get a physicist that's an expert in aurora, and they can go on and on and on, and maybe you'll understand what they're saying, maybe not. But that's my simple explanation. It's a fancy neon type sign driven by electrons from the sun, and it congregates around the Earth's magnetic field.
How many hours do you work per week, say, and what do you do in your time off? What is there to do?
What do I do in my time off? You need to ask my wife that. Let me first start by when you're on orbit. We operate on Greenwich Mean Time, is the time clock on orbit, and we start work at 7 in the morning, and we are off duty by 7 in the evening. So we're scheduled for a 12-hour day, and oftentimes we'll have another hour's worth of work in order to finish everything up. So we work pretty hard on orbit, and we'll work 5.5 days. So we get 1.5 days off when we're on orbit. As an astronaut, training for space flight or doing your ground job, it's more of a 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. kind of job. And you get to go home at the end of the day and do all the little chores that you need to do at home, mow the grass and take the garbage out and get the pressure washer out and pressure wash all this green stuff that's growing on the side of the house. And that's the kind of things that I do when I'm at home.
Hi, I have two questions. Our volcano is very active recently. Do you think International Space Station can see our eruption?
Oh, can you see volcanoes from space? And the answer is yes, you can see volcanoes in space. And I've had the opportunity to photograph a number of different volcanoes. One that's probably the most active is Mount Etna in Sicily, Italy. And it's like it blows off once every 4 to 6 weeks, and you go over and you can see a big plume. The fissure eruptions that you have here on the Big Island, those are harder to see. You can see them at nighttime, but they don't make a huge smoke plume like some of the composite volcanoes that you see elsewhere, like Alaska or in the Patagonia region of Chile. Those volcanoes make huge spreads of ash that basically trashes the forests growing around them, and then you can see the plumes coming up. But yes, volcanic activity is noticeable from space.
Thank you. Another question is, did you spend any Japanese astronaut at the International Space Station?
I know a lot of the Japanese astronauts. One that came right after my Expedition 30 was Aki. It came up. We didn't cross paths on orbit, but he was the mission right after mine. And then I flew right after Satoshi flew. And again, I didn't cross paths with him, but he left a lot of the Japanese food, which was really good. I got to eat up all his leftover food. And on my last mission, I flew with Takuya. He was on space station. We were there together.
Thank you very much.
Of the many, you primarily do a lot of scientific research while you're in orbit, correct? So of the many projects that you've done, what is the most exciting or one that you can bring to mind?
Okay, what are the exciting projects? I'll break it down into, I'll give you two exciting ones. There's the programmatic work that, the science program that's orchestrated by mission control, and it's peer reviewed and all of that. And some of the most exciting programmatic work that I've seen is the combustion experiments, because flames, you see the candles up there with a little point, that's all driven by convection here on Earth. Gravity, the hot air goes up because of gravity, colder air comes in, and it makes a candle look like the candle flame that we're all used to. But there's no convection, buoyancy-driven convection on orbit, and the flames are spherical. So they make a nice sphere, and then they snuff themselves out because the rate of consuming oxygen is greater than the rate of diffusion to bring new oxygen into the flame front. And so they'll burn spherical for a while, and then they just self-extinguish because the flame runs out of oxygen. And there's a whole study of experiments that I've been part of looking at flames from space. So that's the programmatic ones. And then I spent a lot of my off-duty time doing what I call science of opportunity, just because I was on station and I've got a scientific background and there's all this stuff laying around and I would do my own scientific investigations. And one of my favorite was I looked at static electric forces, which are very weak forces and dominated by gravity here on Earth. But when you are in a weightless environment, small static forces can have a profound effect on the environment. So I flew some knitting needles, and you could charge the knitting needles by rubbing them. And then you could use the knitting needle to do all kinds of fun things with static electric charge. And I've documented these on video, and many of these are posted on the internet.
My second question is, you were showing us a photo of the southern hemisphere, the two white, what did you call that?
The Magellanic Clouds.
What are they?
Oh, they are actually galaxies outside of our galaxy. We have the Milky Way galaxy, and then there are all these little other smudges in the sky, and those other smudges in the sky are other galaxies. And the Magellanic Clouds happen to be two other galaxies, and they're outside of our galaxy, and they're visible in the southern hemisphere. We can't see them here. And they're called the Magellanic Clouds because Magellan happened to sail around the world and saw them and wrote about them. And whether it's unfortunate or fortunate, those who write down their observations are the ones that seem to be remembered by history, which also gets back to, if you are doing exploration in your frontier and you're making new observations, write them down, document them in such a way so that other people can learn from what you had observed and push the frontier out even further.
Thank you.
We take one more question. Dr. Pettit, will you be available after to talk story?
Of course.
Okay, we'll take one more.
You mentioned the word frontier a lot of times, and that's one of your goals, to explore the new frontiers. And in my mind, it clicked Star Trek. You know, one of their goals is to explore the new frontier. So I was wondering if you're growing up, you're watching Star Trek and the movies, and what kind of influence it had on you?
Okay. I grew up in a small town in Oregon, and a logging farming community. And during the summer times, when you're like in middle school and high school, you could just go out into the woods, you could go out into the fields, and you could do your exploring. We only had 4 TV channels. You know, you didn't have Netflix. You couldn't watch all. You know, you had to go to the movie theater in order to see a full feature movie. And of the 4 TV channels, one of them was PBS. And of course, what middle school kid wants to watch PBS? You know, we wanted to watch cartoons. We wanted to see Laurel and Hardy. But you know, the world presented itself in a way that a small town country boy and my brothers and I, we could just expand our curiosity and do things. And certainly some of the science fiction movies that tickled my imagination, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I read a lot of science fiction. I like Jules Verne. H.G. Wells had a number of fascinating stories. Robert Heinlein was another favorite author of mine growing up. And who knows what the effect of all of this is in terms of sparking your interest to explore. Certainly there's no shortage of guidelines and information to incite the next generation of young people into thinking about exploring.
So thank you again, Dr. Pettit, for your awesome presentation and keeping us updated on the latest in space explorations. So we're so grateful to have a NASA astronaut's presence at this annual memorial service. So at this time, I will now lead us in the unison reading of the Golden Chain of Love. Words can be found on the laminated handouts on the back of the pews and on the screen. So please recite the words along with me. So, I am a link in Amida Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I'll try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every link in Amida's golden chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu. And Reverend Blaine will now offer a short Dharma reflection.
Namandabts, 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 namandabts. Hi, good morning. Thank you, Dr. Pettit, for sharing your experiences and insights with us. We are always grateful for the opportunity to learn about space exploration during this annual service honoring Ellison Onizuka and the crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger. You know, we celebrate how they embodied the values of excellence, of perseverance, of discovery, right? And those lessons that offer us ways of living and ways of being in the world. So in his last moments, Shakyamuni Buddha urged his disciples, right, to make my teachings your light, to rely upon them, do not depend upon any other teaching. And we continue to honor these words by reflecting on the infinite light and life of the Buddha and living with deep gratitude for the path of peace and spiritual liberation that he shared with all of us. We understand that his death was simply the end of the physical body, because the true Buddha is enlightenment itself, and he exists forever in the truth and the practice of the Dharma. The Buddha continues to teach and lives on through the lives of all who follow the path of universal awakening he shared. Each of us can embody the living Dharma that has the power to transform ourselves and our world. The late Buddhist master Thich Nhat Hanh believed one word, one action, or one thought can reduce another person's suffering and bring him joy. One word can give comfort and confidence, destroy doubt, help someone avoid a mistake, reconcile a conflict, or open the door to liberation. One action can save a person's life or help him take advantage of a rare opportunity. One thought can do the same, because thoughts always lead to words and actions. If love is in our heart, every thought, word, and deed can bring about a miracle. This is what the Buddha taught as he lay dying beneath the twin solitaries, that if we only focus on this physical body, we would not be truly seeing him. Only by accepting and practicing his teachings can we truly see him. Living the Dharma is the path to transformation and peace. The ultimate goal of the Buddha's path is to embody the spirit of a bodhisattva, those enlightened beings who give up their own liberation for the good of others. This is the core aspiration for how we should live, not just for ourselves, but for everyone, because true compassion is universal and inclusive. In our Shin Buddhist tradition, we often chant the sutra Sanbutsuge, or hymn in praise of Buddha, because it summarizes the aspiration of Dhammakara Bodhisattva to become a Amida Buddha, establish the Pure Land, and to work for the enlightenment of all beings, resolving to endure and never falter until the goal of universal liberation is achieved. We are taught to live with a similar aspiration of care and concern for others' welfare as our guiding light. The eternal life of the Buddha is reflected in the practice of the Dharma he shared. It is a dynamic light of limitless wisdom and compassion within each of us. As Shin Buddhist scholar Dr. Jeff Wilson writes, great compassion is all-embracing and takes on any form that helps. Thus, great compassion comes to us in the form of Namo Amida Butsu, and also in the form of those who teach the Dharma, those who give aid to the suffering, those who stand up for the marginalized, and many other wondrous forms. We are the living embodiment of great compassion in everything that we do in our everyday lives. I'm thankful for the countless bodhisattvas, these light bearers, who inspire a culture of harmony, of peace and justice through their example. They illuminate our world with selfless acts of courage, kindness, and compassion, lifting everyone around them when darkness falls and hope fades. I think of the thousands in Minnesota right now, including my dear friend, Rabbi Peter Shachtman, who are standing in solidarity with a community besieged and terrorized by its own government. I uplift the memory of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, who were murdered by federal agents for standing up against injustice. We have seen this before. The abuse of power, targeting vulnerable communities, and the dangerous erosion of our democracy. We stand at a crossroads where the Constitution and the rule of law are being dismantled for greed and power. We can let truth, justice, and our core value of the common good slip away or we can stand firm and fulfill our duty to protect and to defend our democracy in these perilous times. I'm reminded of a passage from the Fellowship of the Ring written by J.R.R. Tolkien. Frodo Baggins and Gandalf the Grey have a conversation in which Frodo laments the terrible struggles happening in the world. "I wish it need not have happened in my time," said Frodo. "So do I," said Gandalf, "and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. Today we face a government that lies, seeks to impose its will, and silences dissent through coercion and violence. Do we have the courage to stand against state-sanctioned violence, cruelty, and fear wherever we are? Can we be brave enough to imagine and to build the just, humane, and compassionate world that should be? Just as the Buddha taught how one candle can light thousands, may each of us ignite the flame of hope and fearlessness in whatever way we can during this dark time. Peace is not just the absence of conflict. True peace is not passive. It is an active and powerful force in our world. How do we care for one another? What actions do we take to make our world better? How do we respond during times of crisis? Do we have the strength and the courage, like Ellison Onizuka, to envision and to create a better future? Our efforts to live humanely are never wasted. Choosing to nurture love instead of anger is the only way to change ourselves, our nation, and our world. I've been reflecting on a verse I wrote during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic and after George Floyd's death. And I believe these words have taken on new significance as we navigate the chaos sweeping our country. I woke up crying Namo Amida Butsu for all who are suffering. I woke up crying Namo Amida Butsu for myself. I woke up crying Namo Amida Butsu for the healing of our communities. I woke up crying Namo Amida Butsu because all I can do is entrust. Every day I wake up to the working of greed, hatred, and ignorance in our world. Every day I wake up to the working of wisdom and compassion, which has turned my heart towards justice and love. Every day I wake up to Namo Amida Butsu. Every day I wake up ready to build the America that should be. Every day I wake up ready to try. We are far from perfect, but we can build a more perfect union every day. This potential is the promise of America. May we always aim to do better and to be better, just as we strive to embody the vows of a bodhisattva, cultivating a more harmonious, just, and equitable world for all. Let's continue seeking the good together as we work to bring light into our darkened world. Please join me in Gassho as we recite the Nembutsu together with deep gratitude, joy, and mindful awareness for our duty to embody the Buddha's path of liberation and peace for the well-being of all. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu.
Thank you, Reverend Blaine. We will now have the offertory presentation. Thank you for your generosity, everyone. Please rise and let's conclude the service with the singing of the Gatha Nembutsu.
Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda.
Please be seated. This concludes the 40th Annual Memorial Service for NASA astronaut Colonel Ellison Onizuka and the crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger. Here are a few announcements. Upcoming services, events, and reminders. Next Sunday, February 1st, we will observe Nirvana Day service, which is Shakyamuni Buddha's memorial service at 10 a.m. Guest speaker will be Reverend Hirosato Yoshida from Soto Mission of Hawaii. There has been a recent change. There will be no service on Super Bowl Sunday, February 8th. Thank you, Reverend Blake. It's an unofficial holiday at this point, yeah, I think. So. Sunday, February 15th. Save the date for a 2026 General Membership Meeting and New Year's Luncheon starting at 10 a.m. There will be a memorial service and meeting in the Hondo with luncheon to follow in the social hall. We will honor Kerokai members turning 80 this year, celebrate our centenarians, and welcome new members. Please join us for this time of fun and fellowship as we celebrate the new year together as Sangha. Enjoy Ono food, entertainment, games, and prizes. So please RSVP to the temple office by February 6th. Big event on Sunday, February 22. Kona Honganji will host the annual Big Island Gatha Fest starting at 9:30 a.m. in the social hall. Sangha members from around the island will be gathering here to share their selected songs. Once again, may we please ask for your kokua in hosting this big event, as well as in singing our own song. Our songwriter, Darren Katayama, has written Dharma lyrics to the well-known song White Sandy Beach of Hawaii, originally sung by Israel Kamakawiwa Ole. We have scheduled practice sessions at 5:30 p.m. for the next 4 Fridays, starting this Friday, January 30th. Plus, we'll perform the song at the annual Kyodan meeting on February 15th. So please join us at our practice sessions and our performance. For both the annual Kyodan Luncheon and Gatha Fest, a good head count is needed for the preparation of food. So therefore, a sign-up sheet will be circulated during refreshments today. Thank you, Auntie Benny. So are there any other announcements?
Again, just thank you very much to Dr. Pettit and his wife. Thank you very much for being here and joining us. It's such a great honor to have you here. And also, I saw online, I think Mike Fink is online still. Welcome, Mike. Great to see you. Welcome back to Earth. So glad you're safe. Oh, he did. Oh, Stephen just mentioned, right, we're not going to have service on Super Bowl Sunday, so you're welcome. Yeah. So because of that, I hope to see everybody at our upcoming services and events and other things happening in February. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So in closing, we'd like to express a big mahalo to NASA astronaut Dr. Donald Pettit for being our in-person guest speaker today. We are so privileged to have been able to listen to and learn from your presentation. Please stay safe in all your future space endeavors. Mahalo also to Claude Onizuka and the Onizuka Memorial Foundation for making the arrangements with Dr. Pettit. And to members of the Onizuka family to have joined us today, you have added a special touch to this service for which we are sincerely grateful. And I think we missed him, but thank you to Colonel Fink for zooming in. We're happy to hear he safely back on Earth. Let's see. So for those of you on Zoom, you may leave at any time. And those of you here in person, refreshments will be served in the social hall. So mahalo to Lynn Katayama, Lisa Siriaco, and anyone else who brought goodies to share. Thank you all for joining us. Please always keep abreast of the latest news in space happenings and do your best to keep healthy and safe as we look forward to seeing you at future services. Please be sure to sign up on the RSVP sheet for both the annual Kyodan meeting and Gata Fest. So now let's go have some refreshments. Okay, thank you.